Unrivaled Season 2 has been a disaster. They've lost nearly 50% of their entire viewership, and the ratings are in for this past Monday. Not only is it amongst the lowest I've seen this year, it's amongst the lowest I've seen in the history of Unrivaled. These past 2 seasons, Season 1,
110,000 viewers. That's the number that has Unrivaled's investors panicking right now. To put that in perspective, reruns of Friends from the 90s are pulling bigger audiences on the same network. This isn't just a bad night. This is a league fighting for survival, and the numbers from this past Monday tell a story that no amount of PR spin can fix.
the 145,000 that usually watch, you say, I'm good. On a Monday following the Super Bowl, no Super Bowl to compete with, no college football playoff to compete with. You guys have an open Monday, and the ratings that you drew were disastrous. Now, this comes prior to Breanna Turner speaking about the CBA deal and, we're making some movement. Fans are even getting tired of that.
Here's what makes this particularly devastating. Monday, February 9th. No Super Bowl to compete with anymore. No college football playoffs eating up viewers. Unrivaled had a completely open Monday night on TNT, a major network with massive reach, and they couldn't even crack the ratings threshold that would get them listed in standard television metrics. The rating came back as not applicable because the viewership was so low, the tracking systems don't even have a category for it.
It is such a low number, the TV ratings guide can't even find it in among their templates to put out. Oh, we don't even have that number. Oh, wow, that's really bad. 30,000 in the 18 to 49, the advertisement demographic. That's not good if you're an advertiser paying for space for this time slot.
But wait, it gets worse. The 18 to 49 demographic, the golden metric that advertisers actually pay for, came in at 30,000 viewers. If you're a company that bought advertising space during those games, you're looking at those numbers and demanding your money back. That's not a return on investment. That's a write-off. And when the second game of the night pulled 20,000 or below in that same demographic, someone at HBO had to be asking the question nobody wants to hear. Why are we even putting this on television?
I'll tell you this right now. Last year, the highest rating Unrivaled games were that one-on-one tournament. The one-on-one for Unrivaled started yesterday. So it couldn't have come at a better time to try to boost these back up. The Angel Reese return couldn't have came at a better time. But I will say this.
Now, Unrivaled tried to create a lifeline. They brought back the one-on-one tournament, the format that actually generated some buzz during Season 1. Angel Reese returned from her injury right on schedule. These were supposed to be the moves that stabilized the ship. Instead, the league is down nearly 50% from their already modest Season 1 viewership. When your rescue plan fails to move the needle, you're not in a slump anymore. You're in free fall.
Goes back. I would not be surprised if they take it off TV entirely and just put it behind the HBO Max paywall. That wouldn't surprise me. If this just turns into a paywall type of product. You put on reruns of Friends, it's outdrawn this. You put reruns of King and Queens, it outdraws this. Law and Order from back in the day, 1990 Law and Order, it's outdrawing this.
Let's talk about what happens next, because this is where it gets real for everyone involved. HBO didn't invest in Unrivaled as a charity project. They're running a business. And when you're getting outdrawn by Law & Order episodes from 1990, someone's making a calculation about whether this content belongs on linear television at all. The most likely scenario, if these numbers continue, Unrivaled gets pulled from TNT entirely and moved behind the HBO Max paywall, where low viewership doesn't create public embarrassment and doesn't waste valuable primetime real estate.
We're just tired of the WNBA Players Association. Now, this is Breanna Stewart's comments in totality. Let's see if I can play this real quick.
The league. So I think that call was great just from being able to hear the perspective of both sides, from the league side, from the player side, and what we want. So our recent...
Meanwhile, over in WNBA land, Breanna Stewart is giving us the standard media training response about CBA negotiations. There's momentum, there's traction, we're finally headed in a direction. Fans have heard this exact script for 18 months now. The problem is, words like momentum don't mean anything when there's no actual signed agreement. And the players who are stuck overseas, missing paychecks, waiting for leadership to deliver results, they're starting to lose patience with these carefully crafted non-updates.
great just from being able to hear the perspective of both sides, from the league side, from the player side, and what we want. So our recent CBA proposal that we got, there's movement. There's like traction. We're finally like headed in a direction. So I'm excited. I'm excited to hopefully negotiate back.
Right.
And, really kind of do the negotiations, because unfortunately it's been like 18 months and we haven't like.
Here's the disconnect that's driving people crazy. The owners have been negotiating. We've watched their offers increase multiple times. Salary increases, expanded benefits, additional commitments to player resources. The owners have demonstrably moved off their original position. But the players authorized a strike back on January 18th and haven't budged on their core demands. That's not negotiation. That's an ultimatum. And when you're the side that doesn't generate profit yet, ultimatums are a dangerous strategy.
Over it all. On December 18th, the union voted to authorize calling a strike when necessary, and some voices around the league wondered if the time was drawing near. Breanna Turner, activist Breanna Turner, quote, "I feel like it's not imminent at this point. It's still early February, like we're still going, so I feel like we're still in a waiting game at the moment." Holy shit. Can you use the word like any more times? Folks,
Let's look at what some players are actually saying when ESPN talks to them off the record. One player admitted, "I feel like we're kind of getting greedy. We're doing a lot of asking. I feel like we need to do a lot of doing." That's a direct quote. Another player, when asked how losing a WNBA paycheck would affect her, said, "It would impact me immensely. It's my job, so it would be a big deal. Money is money. I would love my paycheck." These are not the words of people confident in their union strategy.
brain cells. "I feel like it's not imminent at this point. It's still early February, like we're still going. So I feel like we're still in a waiting game at the moment." Oh, okay. Oh, fair. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that there will be a full season? This one person says, "I feel like we're asking for a lot. I know we deserve it, but at the same time, it's kind of like we're kind of getting greedy. We're doing a lot of asking. I feel like we need to do a lot of doing. Doing a lot of asking. I feel like we got to do a lot of..."
And here's where the players made a critical tactical error. When they voted to authorize the strike, they handed all their leverage to the executive committee. Before that vote, individual players could pressure the committee by saying, "We need to see specific progress before we give you strike authorization." That's negotiating power. But once they authorized the strike, that power evaporated. Now the executive committee controls everything. They decide when to strike, what terms to accept, how long to hold out. The rank-and-file players gave away their seat at the table.
Talking about how would a lost WNBA paycheck affect you? It would impact me immensely. It's my job, so it would be a big deal. Money is money. I would love my paycheck. On a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you with about negotiations? The players expressed uncertainty about the possibility of playing a full WNBA season. That didn't translate to significant anxiety about the negotiation.
Breanna Turner, who sits on that executive committee, gave an interview that perfectly captures the disconnect. She said, and I'm quoting directly here, "I feel like it's not imminent at this point. It's still early February, like we're still going, so I feel like we're still in a waiting game at the moment." Count how many times the word "like" appears in that statement. This is someone with enormous power over 300 players' livelihoods, and she's communicating like she's ordering coffee. The lack of urgency is stunning.
Well, the average was 3.2. Y'all should worry. Some of y'all should worry. Now, before we wrap up here, some of these players that are against how negotiations are going, claiming that they can't miss a paycheck, saying that, I get it. But at the same time, you voted to authorize the strike. You lost any type of power you had. You lost it all.
When ESPN asked players to rate their anxiety level about negotiations on a scale of 1 to 10, the average came back at 3.2. Only one player rated it a 10. The rest said they aren't worried or they're not going to worry about what's beyond their control. But here's the problem with that attitude. This is absolutely within their control. They're the ones who authorized the strike. They're the ones who elected the executive committee. And they're the ones who will lose paychecks if this goes sideways. Treating it like it's out of your hands is how you end up blindsided. So let's connect these two stories, because they're more related than they appear on the surface. Unrivaled is collapsing under the weight of unrealistic expectations and a product that viewers simply don't want to watch. The WNBA is playing chicken with its own owners, while fans lose interest in the constant drama. Both situations share the same fundamental problem, a disconnect between what the leadership thinks people want and what people actually want. Unrivaled's investors thought fans were desperate for more women's basketball content in the offseason. They were wrong. The ratings prove it definitively. You can't spin 110,000 viewers as anything other than a failure. And when your best players are participating in this league, taking on injury risk and fatigue, for what? For a product that can't even get tracked properly by Nielsen because the viewership is too low to register? The WNBA Players Association thought fans would rally behind their fight for better compensation and support their strike authorization. But look at the comment sections. Look at social media. Fans are tired of hearing about CBA negotiations. They're tired of the updates that don't actually update anything. They're tired of watching players complain about their salaries, while the league still operates at a loss. The sympathy that existed a year ago has been eroded by 18 months of stalled negotiations and public posturing. And here's what's particularly frustrating for fans: the lack of self-awareness from the players involved. When you're getting quotes like, "We're kind of getting greedy," from players themselves, that should be a wake-up call for leadership. When players are openly saying they can't afford to miss a paycheck, but the union is threatening to strike anyway, that's a strategy problem. The executive committee is playing hardball with other people's money, and those people are starting to notice. Breanna Turner's comments reveal another layer of the problem. She says they haven't really been negotiating for 17 or 18 months, but that's objectively false. The owners have been negotiating. They've made multiple offers. They've increased their proposals. What Turner means is the players haven't been negotiating, because negotiating would require them to compromise on something, and they haven't done that yet. They've just been demanding. Think about the position this puts someone like Caitlin Clark in. She's the one player who demonstrably moves the needle on ratings and attendance. She's the one player who could credibly argue she deserves special compensation because she brings in revenue that other players don't. But she can't make that argument publicly without being accused of undermining union solidarity. So she's stuck making the same optimistic statements about progress and momentum, even though she probably has more to lose from a work stoppage than almost anyone else in the league. The owners, meanwhile, are sitting on a pretty strong hand here. They can survive a strike just fine. Most of them are billionaires with diverse investment portfolios. The WNBA is a small piece of their overall business interests. Yes, they'd prefer to have the league operating and growing, but if the players want to strike and miss paychecks, the owners can wait them out. The players, on the other hand, have a very limited window to maximize their earning potential. Every year they lose to a work stoppage is a year they can never get back. And let's be honest about what a strike would actually accomplish. It would generate negative headlines. It would frustrate fans who are already losing interest. It would give networks and sponsors a reason to reduce their commitments. It would probably accelerate the trend we're already seeing with Unrivaled, where investors look at the actual numbers and decide women's basketball isn't worth the investment they thought it was. A strike doesn't strengthen the player's position. It weakens it by proving the league can't get its act together even when growth is finally happening. The tragedy here is that the WNBA is actually in a better position than it's ever been. Attendance is up. Ratings are up, largely thanks to Caitlin Clark. Expansion is happening. New investors are coming in. This should be the moment where everyone capitalizes on the momentum and locks in a good deal that benefits everyone. Instead, we're watching the Players Association potentially blow up the best opportunity they've ever had, because they won't compromise on demands that the economics simply don't support yet. Look at what's happening with Unrivaled as a cautionary tale. That league thought it could command an audience just by existing, just by having big names attached. They were wrong. The audience doesn't show up just because you build it. They show up when you give them something they actually want to watch. And right now, the WNBA is in danger of making the same mistake. They're assuming fan support is unconditional, that people will stick around no matter how much drama and dysfunction they create. But those unrivaled ratings should be a wake-up call. Fans will absolutely tune out if you give them a reason to. So here's the question the WNBA Players Association needs to answer. What's the endgame here? Because from the outside, it looks like they're playing a game of chicken with no plan for what happens if the owners don't blink. They authorized a strike, but half the players can't afford to miss paychecks. They're demanding revenue sharing, but the league doesn't generate profit yet. They're acting like they have all the leverage, but the unrivaled ratings show what happens when you overestimate how much fans actually care. At some point, you have to negotiate in good faith and take the best deal available, even if it's not everything you wanted. The owners have made it clear they're willing to invest more money, provide better conditions, and grow the league. But they're not going to agree to revenue-sharing percentages that would bankrupt the league before it becomes sustainable. That's not being greedy. That's basic business sense. And if the players can't understand that distinction, if they can't separate what they deserve in an ideal world from what the current economics can actually support, then they're going to negotiate themselves right into a work stoppage that benefits nobody. So where does this leave us? Unrivaled is circling the drain with viewership numbers that might get the league pulled from television entirely. The WNBA is playing with fire by letting CBA negotiations drag on while fan interest slowly erodes, and the players who actually depend on these paychecks are watching their leadership make decisions that might cost them an entire season of income. Something has to give. Either the Players Association gets realistic about what's achievable right now, or we're headed for a strike that damages the league right when it was finally starting to build real momentum. The choice is theirs, but the clock is ticking, and those unrivaled ratings should be a reminder that fan patience isn't infinite.